It's the Van Show! Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Curtsy, curtsy.
Yes, curtsy.
Hello.
Now today we have my friend and yours, Mr. Dan Santat.
Hello,
Say hello,
yay,
Dan!
Yay me, yay. Hi, how are you? How are you?
You're the first author to applaud themselves. I love that.
I have no shame. Because everyone's just walking around getting their freebie bookmarks and everything, but let's spend a little time with me in the Van Show. Yay,
I'd applaud
nice
you
to see
too, but I've only got the one working hand.
Right, well, nice to see you again.
Well, thank you. Nice to see you too.
That's very nice.
So Dan, I'm going to lob you a couple softballs, then we'll get to the hard-hitting stuff.
Okay, let's go.
So first of all, tell us a little bit about where you're from.
I'm from Los Angeles, California. We locals like to pronounce it Los Angeles. For those of you who are not bilingual, Los Angeles translates to the land of unemployed actors, but they like to call themselves part-time baristas, but we all know the truth.
So Dan, do you got any pets?
I do. I have many pets. I have 3 dogs, 2 cats, and a bird, and it's just a menagerie of just chaos, especially when the mailman comes, or even like a baby on a stroller just going by. Like they just start yelling at the door, and it's just utter chaos. I mean, like in the last 2 years, I've been doing a lot of Zoom visits, and then my dogs just lose their mind, so I have to like push them outside into the yard just so they can just kind of contain their rage. Yeah.
Cool. Now, Dan, you're an author and an illustrator.
Yes.
And so one thing that I was wondering about is, it seems like there's 2 big parts of the job.
There is.
One is creating the material.
Right.
The other is traveling around and sharing that material.
Yes, yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between how that feels between creating and then sharing?
Sure. So when you're creating material for the kids, you know, there's a thought process in your head trying to think in terms of like, oh, what will kids like? You know, what will really attract their attention? What do they find appealing and interesting? And then on the other hand, you go on tour, you know, because like, you know, you're making the book at home, it's a very isolated, you know, thing. You're editor and art director, so it's just 3 people. But then when you go on the road and you're meeting room, you know, filled with hundreds of kids, you know, you're trying to explain, you know, why you made this book and like the perception that you want to give them of like why certain scenes happen and things like that. And so what's really interesting is that, you know, you talk to the kids who've read your material, and then they come back to you, and they perceive it a completely different way. And in a way, it's a very symbiotic relationship because you learn from it. You learn, oh, this is how kids think. Because I think a lot of us as book creators, you know, we're much older and we reflect on what it's like to be a kid. And that perception is completely off, you know? You kind of have this idealized version of what you were as a kid, like, oh, I went to bed at a good time and I ate all my vegetables. And it just turned out, no, I was a kid of the 80s, and I pretty much just consumed nothing but Hot Pockets, like when they were invented.
And Ecto Cooler.
Right, yeah, Ecto Cooler, right, yeah, high C. I love that.
I remember.
And so, you know, a lot of it is you're going out to meet kids, figuring out how they think, how they perceive the world, but also just kind of sharing the experience of what it's like to make a book and just bring the joy, like, you know, bring the excitement and just being with kids and connecting and like, you know, kind of feeling the love as opposed to just sitting in front of a computer saying, gosh, I hope they love this.
Yeah, but you know, it's almost like you have to have a split personality there. Like one personality that's okay with being alone for a lot of time and working. Right. And then another that's okay with being out in the world around hundreds of kids.
Right, and I think I'm very fortunate in the fact that I like doing both, because there's a lot of people that I know who make books who are completely content on making the books, but have no interest in going out and sharing it with the world. Yeah. In fact, so like the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, I had to do a lot of presentations on Zoom. And what was going on in the beginning was that the schools would turn off their cameras to protect the identity of the kids.
Of course.
And so you just had this black screen with the mute on, and then you would present in front of your reflection on your computer screen, and it was the most horrific Black Mirror thing I could ever imagine. Like I just felt like I was in some kind of horrible dystopian novel where I was just like trying to like respond to something like out of Blade Runner. Yeah.
So hey, let's talk about your book.
All right.
Because you brought it all the way here.
Yes.
So now this is a collaboration, is that right?
Yeah. It was written by the very lovely Laurel Snyder. It's a choose your own adventure book, which I'm not allowed to say.
Oh wait, so what do you say?
Well, we call it a pick your path book, pick your own path book, right? And so it's about Little Red Riding Hood trying to deliver her basket of goodies to Grandma, but in this you have many choices that you can pursue to get to that end path, or maybe not even at all. Now, the wonderful thing about this manuscript is that when I got it, I thought it was just going to be about Little Red Riding Hood, but it actually encapsulates tons of other fairy tales and nursery rhymes. So you have the Three Little Pigs, you have Sleeping Beauty, you have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, you have the goose that laid the golden egg, you have the woodsman. Like there's all kinds of fairy tales that are all wrapped up in this. And Little Red Riding Hood goes out and she interacts with all of them depending on what you choose. And it's just a fantastic book that I was really happy to work with.
So Dan, we're getting close to the end of the interview.
Okay.
But I'd like to play a game with you if you're all right.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So we're going to play a game called Truth or Dare. I don't know if you ever played this game before.
Oh, I sure have.
You've attended a middle school sleepover.
Yes, sure have, yeah. And
so now, would you like to choose truth, or would you like to choose
I'm
dare?
not afraid of anything. Let's choose the truth.
Ooh, all right.
All right.
So for the truth, I will ask you this.
Okay.
Have you ever stolen anything?
Have I ever stolen anything? Okay, so yes, I have. I was 13 years old. I was in Salzburg. I was studying abroad for 3 weeks, and I was staying with a homestay family that had other exchange students. 2 girls were from France, 2 are from Denmark, and the thing about Salzburg is that the entire country closes at 5 p.m. And so I asked these girls, I said, is there anything cool to do in Salzburg at night? And they said, oh, do you like disco? And I said, what do you mean, like John Travolta disco? And they said, yeah, no, there's a discotheque. So I'm 13 and a half. I go to a discotheque, and the age that you're supposed to be admitted is 18. But these girls were so cool. Like the 2 girls from Denmark were 18. The 2 girls from France were my age. They were 13, 14. They brought me into a discotheque. No one was asking for ID. And there was this girl that I liked that was on my tour group. And she ended up at the discotheque too. And so like we were hanging out, and then like the girls said, hey, you should walk her home. And I said, okay. And I asked if I could walk her home. She said yes. We took a metro bus, which was on the other side of Salzburg. I dropped her off at the door closed, and immediately I regretted my decision because I had absolutely no idea where I was. So I'm walking in the streets of Salzburg in the middle of the night. It's like 11:30 at night. I'm 13 and a half years old. I'm just like starting to panic, and then I just start running into the darkness because I think for some reason moving forward means I'm less lost. And then I get to this point where there's a bike rack filled with hundreds of bikes. Now, the beautiful thing about Europeans is that they have this lovely honor system, so there's no locks on any of the bikes. And at this point, it's midnight. I'd never stayed out that late before in my entire life. And I remember thinking, I need to take one of these bikes to find my way home. And I totally panicked, and I grabbed a bike. And then I hear this voice in German say, hey, and I turn around, and I see these dark Martin boots outside, like just outside, peeking out inside this like really dark bus stop, right?
This is a scary story.
And the voice says in German, it was like, that's not your bike. And I'm holding the bike, and I don't speak German. I'm trying to explain like, oh, no, I'm sorry. And he says in German, that's not your bike. And then you see him get up, and he comes out of the shadows, and it's this German punk rocker dude with a mohawk and a Dead Kennedy shirt and all these things. But it's not just him. It's 3 of his other friends. There's 4 guys that come out like they came out of like black liquid.
Oh no.
And it's these 4 German punks. I'm this little 14-year-old kid. And I panic, and I let go of the bike, and I just start running. I just start running into the night, and they start chasing after me. I run around a corner, and I hide in the bushes. They walk by, and then I try to sneak out, but my foot gets caught in the bushes, and they see me, and I'm running back towards the bikes. I grab a bike, and thankfully they were wearing Doc Martens, because if you've ever worn Doc Martens, you can't run very fast in them.
Yep.
And I'm just pedaling for dear life, screaming, please, I don't want to die. And I managed to get away from them. And then once I got back home, like once I regained my sensibilities, I looked, and there's a beautiful giant castle in the middle of Salzburg, and I collected my thoughts, and I realized, oh, I'm on the west side of the city. I have to get over there. And so I took the bike, and by the time I got back, it was like 1:30 in the morning, and all the girls, like the 2 French girls, the 2 girls from Denmark, they were waiting for me in the kitchen. They were like, where were you? We were so worried. And I said, I walked the girl home, like you said. Yeah. And they said, did you kiss her? And I said, no. And that was the time I stole a bike that I just kind of, and I feel very guilty if there's anybody in Germany that remembers that happening back in 1989. I deeply, humbly apologize.
Well, you know, that's a pretty harrowing story for a 13-year-old, man.
Yeah, well, you know, so I have a memoir coming out next year, and that's going to be in the book about the 3-week trip I took to Germany, and that is in the memoir.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that story. That was great.
Thank you.
Dan, thank you for coming on the show. This has been awesome.
Oh, it's so great to see you after many years.
Yeah, you as well. Goodbye.
Goodbye.